and then wait for a bit. Yep, there we are.
It'll take a minute.
I know. I don't see my hands waving yet. Yep, there I am. That's about how much the delay is for me.
Oh, notification just popped up for me. There you are.
Hi, Rain Falls. Awesome, you're here. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but F underline SG 2014. Hi, welcome. Destiny Haynes says hello, hello Destiny. We're getting people on faster now. It's great.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome to the show. Rachel Hensley says hello. Rainfall says blessed be. Hey everybody, welcome. So I might as well just sort of jump in. Hi Jennifer. It's great. We've had ourselves a busy week. Eventful. Extremely eventful week. It's just been like head spinning, I would say. So it's like the last show, my son and daughter were here, or my son and daughter-in-law, and they were looking at a house. They have since put an offer into the house, and they've bought the house, and they're going to be moving here like early October.
Yes.
Because the house is supposed to go into, be finished, the closing date's September 24th. So that happened, which was just really fantastic and funny. I'm a massage therapist, so I have this tool that I use a bunch called a Theracane. It's got like knobs on it and stuff, and you put it on your back and everything. Rainfall says, I just want to say I found you this week. You have changed my life. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. And so when I got the Theracane, I had one for me, I got one for my daughter, I got one for my son. So my son was visiting in my house. He sees our Theracane, he picks it up, he throws it over his shoulder and starts working on himself. And then he walked out the door with it. And he ended up having to ship it back because he accidentally stole my Theracane. It was so funny because I'm like looking for this thing. Where the heck is it? I'd call him on the phone or text him and say, did you take my Theracane? No, I did not. It's on the floor in front of the TV. And I'm like, no, it is not. And I'm looking at the floor. And then he stopped his car and opened his trunk, and there it was. So that was just funny. But then it was exciting when we heard that, they put in an offer and got the house. And so that part of that journey that we've been waiting to start is finished. And a new chapter begins. And they're going to be up here with my daughter-in-law's grandparents. I don't even know what I'm saying. Who are all these people? I don't know them yet. So that's going to happen. And of course, that my granddaughter's staying with us. And then my friend Shay from Portland came down, and she's been here since Thursday night. And that was Thursday night that happened, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh boy. Yeah, so the very first night that she arrives, we hear this horrible noise after I went to bed, and it was a raccoon, and our neighbor decided to poison the raccoon, and it was horrible. I mean, we listened to the thing dying, and my granddaughter and Shay ended up outside trying to figure out what to do, and they actually took the dead raccoon and put it in my backyard and all this other stuff, and then it was like, what do we do? We have a poisoned body, and I'm not thinking it's a good idea to bury it. So I start calling authorities to find out, and then I get our neighbors in trouble because it's not legal to poison a raccoon, which I was glad to find out because I had no idea. I just never would have done it, so that was weird.
But you're right, it's probably the thing of other animals eating them once they've been poisoned.
Well, that was my big concern.
Yeah.
It was how this one animal could affect our ecosystem with the crows, and we have some hawks, we have eagles in our area and stuff. And yes, oh, poor raccoon John, it was awful. And my granddaughter is very emotional about animals, and she fell apart and she was just crying and sobbing and stuff. So that kind of put a kibosh on sleeping for a bit as we were just trying to figure how to calm everybody down and not start a fight with our neighbors next door. So that was weird, but that's what life is like. It's like things happen. You can't predict exactly what kinds of things are going to happen. In my predictor model, this is not something that ever came up, that my neighbors would, be so silly, stupid, and not thinking things through like a responsible human. But yeah, so we still have to talk to them after we had to talk to the police because they came over and took the body. So it's at least going to be disposed of properly, so at least it's not going to harm the environment. But, it's like nature is not fuzzy and warm. It's ruthless.
Except for kittens.
Well, yeah, but
Sorry.
then kittens...
That doesn't count.
Kittens are lovely,
domesticated.
but that's why they killed the raccoon, because the raccoon got a kitten. So, right, so still not warm and fuzzy.
Right.
Although kittens are warm and fuzzy, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things, the unexpected, that just pops up, and in the moment you just have to figure out exactly how you're going to respond to that and what you're going to do and what is the right action to take. And you don't always know for sure what that is. You have to think it through. It's like, taking the raccoon off their property seemed like the right thing to do. The idea of burying it was the first idea that came along. And when I went to bed, I'm thinking about, I don't know, is it going to harm the plants that are growing on it? And then if somebody eats those, are then they going to get sick? There's all sorts of things. So Emily says, send positive vibes. Just got an appendectomy and am recovering in the hospital. Oh, I'm so glad they got your appendix before it caused you trouble. Ian had that once, and boy, did he need to have surgery. So yes, we will send Emily some positive vibes for sure. So enough about me and what weird stuff has been happening this week. How about you guys, and what do you want to talk about? This is, I think, the reason why I decided to do the video on hope. It was because all this weird stuff happened. And I'm like, yeah, we need to, do some outward focus kind of thing. So Emily says, thank you. Rainfall says, full moon, healing, and full of positive vibes. And I saw the full moon when I was on my way back to the ER last night. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't usually see it because it's always foggy here.
I think you told them why you were at the ER.
Well, yeah, I figured I could skip that one.
Okay.
Ended up having to take my granddaughter to the hospital. But she's okay now, thank goodness. But she had us worried. Athusa says, hello, Siofra, Ian, and everyone. Hi, Athusa. Yeah. So, here we are. And that's one of the things about walking a magical path. It's like it doesn't separate you, or shouldn't separate you, from ordinary and regular reality. You have to combine those two paths together. So John says it was a blue moon as well. Yes, it was. It was a seasonal blue moon, not a calendar blue moon. There's two different kinds. They just like naming stuff different. But it was a full moon. That's what it was. There's always extra full moons here and there. I saw in the hospital some guy was telling everybody it was a blue moon and how when it got up in the sky it was going to be blue. And I'm sitting there going don't correct him. It's yeah, it's really big and yellow and oranges right now, but then it's going to it's going to go through these color changes as it gets higher in the atmosphere, and it's going to be blue. And I'm like, yeah, right.
It's going to turn violet. Got to watch out for that one.
The
That's
violet
really
moon?
dangerous,
Oh,
yeah.
no. Yeah, that's true. But yes, it was an absolutely gorgeous moon. Yeah, and on my way back to the ER when I saw the moon, I started singing that song I wrote, the Diana of the moon, Oh Diana. And then this crazy person on a motorcycle came racing out of nowhere, passing me at about 50 or 100 miles an hour. It was just like, boom, like that. It was like, okay, let's go. Emily laughing her ass off, apparently. Jaleesa says, hello, everyone. Hi, Jaleesa. Nice for you to join us. So come on. Now it's your turn to ask me questions and see where we end up with for that. It's been fun.
I was looking to see if I have any questions.
I know, I can tell you're looking upward to the left to see if there are questions in your head that you want to ask.
But
yeah.
to see the top of my head from down here, though.
That's a funny thing how we look into the distance for memories and information and stuff.
Yeah.
But we do. I know I do that. When I'm trying to recall an experience, I'll often be looking outward. Joey D says, hey, everybody. Hi, Joey. So for those who are new, the way this thing works is you ask me questions, and then we have a subject, and we never know for sure exactly what subject we're going to end up with. And so it's sort of like an open forum for the community at large to ask questions in a safe environment.
So throw something out there.
Yeah, so throw something out there. Let's see what we end up with. Canary says hello. Hi, Canary. And for anyone who wonders what happened to Jonathan, he's not going to be joining our live show for a while. He's doing some personal work. Rainfall says, I can ask anything, and I'm all frozen up. Oh, the pressure. Oh, the pressure. Siofra, I was wondering if you could do a step-by-step on charging crystals. I'm a little dumb. I think I did something about charging crystals, but
You did some video.
yeah, I did a video on crystals, and I also did a video on using different kinds of energy for charging. So you might want to watch like both of those videos and figure it out, because it's like basically charging. The idea of charging something up is first to give the crystal a sort of mental matrix of what you want it to accomplish, like what you want it to do, what its job is.
It is a mental matrix.
And if you can match that matrix to the natural energy of the crystal, that helps a lot, because then you're not trying to make a crystal like do grounding if it's mostly air or whatever. So understanding what the crystals are and how they work and what their energy is key. And then after you get that matrix implanted or overlaid onto the crystal, then it's a good idea to give it some kind of an energy source and charge it up with that. So depending on your purpose, like if it's a solar crystal, you might want to use solar energy or fire energy to charge up the crystal, so that it comes into knowing different kinds of energies, how to tap into them, and how to move that energy into a stone to let it absorb that energy. And in a lot of cases, what you can do is you can tell it that once you start charging it, that it'll just keep on charging automatically and just keep on doing its thing and drawing more energy from whatever energy source you connect it to. And so it'll get stronger and stronger and stronger as it continues on. And then you can add to it if you want to, but it's not necessary. There's a lot of crystal books, and a lot of them, they're always telling you have to cleanse your crystals every month and stuff like that. And I'm like, excuse me? I just spent all this time and energy creating this, whole thing for this crystal to do, and I'm going to like erase it completely and start from scratch? That makes no sense to me at all. So I try to make them self-cleansing, if into the mix, and barring that, stick them on a piece of selenite, which will help to charge them and cleanse them automatically. So selenite is really good for this. So Jaleesa says, starting it off a bit heavy, I guess, but what are your thoughts on the devil, demons, and other evil entities? What is their source? Well, I think their source is the human imagination and fear, basically.
Well, yeah, you kind of got to start with the idea that evil is a human conception. everything has its place, and so it's kind of a, there are definitely harmful entities or entities that do harmful work or actions.
But it depends upon the nature of, I mean, what they're doing. Like now, there's a hurricane heading to the East Coast. So people who live in the path of this hurricane are going to consider this harmful. But the Earth needs the hurricane to do this in order to try and cool us off overall. So, there's like greater purpose in what it's doing. And that's why I added that little thing I wrote about the light and the dark, and the idea that they're exclusive to each other, that they're fighting one another, because that's not how nature is. That's not how the universe runs. It's like everything in the universe is going to die at some point, and the death of everything begins new life somewhere else. If it wasn't for supernovas exploding all over the place, there would be no Earth or planet or life or anything for us to have a discussion about. That would be it. So
But
I
also,
think it's like trying to separate people. They're trying to separate people from their roots, and by creating an enemy out of what they believed in that served a purpose, and then it just sort of keeps on going like that. You were going to say?
oh, I was gonna go maybe a little bit off topic, but not too much. But the idea of opposites, two opposites, and in this case we're talking good and evil, black and white, whatever. But there's two ways for opposites. They can either conflict and cause a fight, or they can join together
Blend.
and blend. And so there's not just one way. Differences don't have to create conflict. So just,
Yeah.
sorry, didn't want to get too far off the subject.
But
there.
personally, I don't deal with demons, and I don't believe in the concept of the devil. I mean, the separation of all that stuff is counter to what works for me, which is why I'm a pagan and believe in nature and accept the destruction along with the creation, because we see that every time the seasons change. A whole bunch of stuff has to die in order for the next season
And
to arrive.
Determine a being evil, though, it's not that. Sorry, I lost my thought. Go ahead.
I'm sure it'll come back.
Brain fatigue today.
Yeah.
Brain freeze.
That's because we had a hard time sleeping after I came home so late. All right, so Canary says there was a spiritualist fair on today, and I blew my bank account. Well, I hope you got some good stuff. I can totally understand that. So Julia says, do you believe demonic possession is real?
See, there's again,
Well,
possession of by beings can happen.
right,
Santeria,
right. That would be they call that being ridden.
right? But then you come down to the definition of what's a demon, and go ahead.
Well, I know that something tried to inhabit me when I was a teenager, and it certainly wasn't a pleasant experience. It came with a whole bunch of fire and the smell of sulfur, which would be typical of what people describe as a demon. And but I knew how to stop it from happening and make it leave. So I did, which freaked me out. That I knew how to do that, and that I did it, and I wasn't afraid of it when it was happening. It's like, you go like, what? Afterwards, it's like, that was very strange. So I think it's definitely theoretically possible, and certainly earthbound spirits are often overshadowing people because they're trying to experience living again. They get attracted to humans that are vulnerable, that don't have good protections. If you have the sight, you can see a lot of them in bars in particular, because alcohol sort of breaks down the parts of the brain and the thinking processes that protect us from other things, really, when it comes to it. Not that it's necessarily an evil act in and of itself, it's just that that's one of the things that can make people vulnerable. And then, people can feel overwhelmed or overshadowed or influenced or what have you. And if somebody doesn't have a strong personality, then they certainly can be sort of moved towards a certain position. They had this great sketch on one of these comedy shows once. I think it was the Canadian, the boys, I can't remember what they're called, but they did some pretty good sketches. And they had this disembodied voice. This guy was sitting at a he was sitting on a bench, a park bench, and this voice comes in. He hears this voice that says, you hate your job. And you're like, yeah, I hate my job. It's like, you hate your boss. Yeah, I hate my boss. You want to kill your boss. I want to kill my boss. And he goes like, wait a minute. No, I don't. I actually like my job and I like my boss. And the voice says, oh, wrong guy. And then moves on to the next person, you know. And I just thought that was perfect. It really was. It was just a great, illustration. It's two ways. It's like, there has to be a willingness to participate on the part of the person that does that. So, yeah, so Ruth says hi. Canary says, oh, Jonathan will definitely be missed on here. Best of luck to him. That's what I told him. I told him we would miss him, but he's going to be back at some point. John Quinn says, speaking of full moon, any thoughts on moon water? Hopefully I got that right. It's when people put out water to be energized by the full moon. Oh, yeah.
Lots of thoughts.
Yes, I have definite thoughts. It's like, I don't know who came up with this idea. I was on one of the pagan groups the other day, and somebody, they said this thing, here's a spell you can do, write whatever you want to get rid of in the dirt, and then pour moon water over it and watch it disappear. So it's like banish it from your sight. And I says, well, you don't have to use moon water, you can just charge up water. And they said, how do you do that? And I went, yeah. So my thoughts on this, it's a lot of work, and it might work for some people, but I don't think it's necessary. I've never made moon water. I think I actually did it once, maybe. I have charged up water with the moon to do scrying in the moment, and that's what I would do. That's what I would call moon water, would be, filling my brass cauldron with water, going outside, letting the moonlight hit the water to connect to the moon sphere and add to my clairvoyant ability and my psychic vision or whatever to scry and see if there's something I need to know about or to connect more completely with the lunar energy, which is a wonderful experience to have. But the thing about the moon water is like they've popped up with all these different things of doing it. And the funniest one for me is when people try to make dark moon water at night when there's no moon. And I wonder how that's supposed to work, because they do it at night because it's called dark moon water. So they think it needs to be in the dark. But the new moon, from the scientific astronomical point of view, which is what witches tend to call the dark moon, is only out during the day. So I figure if you're going to try to make dark moon water, you should put your water in a closet inside your house with no lights on during the day. And that's how you would make it if you wanted to. But I don't know if this is a way for people to feel like they're accomplishing something, or they can show a refrigerator full of moon water that they've collected over the last couple of years, what they all do with it all, or what have you. It's sort of not part of the, it's not part of what I work with or worry about. It's like that kind of thing. So those are my random thoughts on that. So that's good. So Rachel says, I'll be moving in a home. It will be my first home. Would you have any ideas for rituals or things I can do as I build the foundation and moving into the home? Well, okay, so if this is going to, I'm assuming from the way you phrase that you've bought the home. It's not just something you're renting. So if that's correct, what we did, you can bury crystals on the edge of your property to protect your home, your boundaries, and so forth, just to sort of start to set that up. You can have a sacred space in your home that's only dedicated to doing magic and so forth, which will build up a really nice energy while you're doing that. You can do standard types of protections, like mirrors facing outward in the windows, so that other people's energy is not going to get into your house, so you can just like automatically reflect their energy away from you. So you have an actual safe space in which to practice and to be and to exist without all that interference from other people's thoughts, their projections, their assumptions about what you're doing. It's like their judgments and criticisms and all that other stuff. Um, and you can, I would initially do a cleansing of the space before you did all that to just make sure there's no negative energy that's left over from the people who lived there before. And that would be like you can do a basic thing like taking a broom and sweeping everything out, going counterclockwise if you live in the northern hemisphere, and start at the front door and just sweep it all out and sort of claim it. They say it's a good idea to talk to your home, and sort of like check in every so often and just tell it how much you appreciate having a home and what it's doing for you, its protection of you with its walls and its roof and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. And then after you've banished negative energy, do something to bring positive energy in. So, you can do it with smells like apple and cinnamon on the stove, if that's a smell that you like, or oranges boiling, anything like that. You can take it and just fill it with something that you care about, something that you like. And you can do that with music. Whatever it is, or all of them together, it's, up to you. And then that helps to start setting the tone for the home. That's a way of claiming that space and deciding what kind of energy you want to have in it. So that would be my recommendations. So, Rainfall says intentions. That would be about crystals, I'm assuming. Violet says, hello. Hi, Violet. Joey says, I saw that video on charging crystals. I'm just a little lost. I would actually like to see an example of it. Okay, maybe I can do something like that. Julia says, how do we sever ties with demonic entities? Good boundaries?
Well, why would a person have ties with demonic entities anyway? But yeah, I guess I need to know more to really answer that. But generally, banishing and things that are inimical, use the light, images of the light, whatever you find sacred, that kind of thing.
Well, and also for me, it's like the way my natural defenses are to be filled with my light, and connected with the light of the life force, light energy, whatever you want to call it. And things that are demons don't like that energy, and so they stay away. So if you make yourself not tasty, by the very virtue of not being tasty, they'll stop coming around. I don't know exactly how to explain that, but that works pretty good. Rainfall says, okay, I got it. I just got a new cauldron. What are good ways to acclimate to me? Use it.
That's absolutely the best way, is just to use it for what it's intended, and especially the first few uses really focus on the intent of the cauldron, that it's magical, that it's special. Try to get a special feeling for it, like a religious item, that kind of thing.
Make it sacred.
Yeah.
And not use it for cooking soup, unless you're a kitchen witch. In which case, go forth and cook soup in it, and make it magic soup. So
Magic mushroom soup.
whatever kind of magic soup they want.
Okay.
But also, if it's a what the heck is that stuff called? If it's that kind of a cauldron, cast iron cauldron, you're going to want to season it, especially if you're ever going to put fire in it. So to season a cauldron, you're going to rub it with oil, like usually any kind of oil will do, but olive oil works pretty well, and make it all, nice and on the inside, and then you want to heat it up to set the oil in. So you can do that like in an oven. Probably be the easiest way. And if it has a handle, you might want to remove the handle depending on what it's made out of. So that, the practical parts of seasoning it. And then if you use it for fire, then you want to clean it out similarly after you use it. When we use a cauldron for fire, we put Epsom salts at the base and then pour alcohol on top of it and light it, and it makes a nice contained fire. And then you can like plop a lid on it to make the fire go out. So it's pretty useful for that. Some people don't like to use cauldrons for fire. And I have my moon cauldron is brass, so when I put water in it, I don't have to worry about it rusting. And so I use a different kind of cauldron for the moon water or moon scrying.
So, Butterfly says you have a delay between voice and speech. I wanted to check and see if that's the case. I'll see if I can track down what's slowing things down. If that's so, I thought I'd mention it.
Okay. So Kristalla says, is intuition the same as telepathy? Sometimes I feel that a lot of people know what is going on in my mind and they literally don't hide it. I am afraid and ashamed because I think random stuff about them. How can someone know what I do or think from a distance? Especially today, I feel down because of it. Whoops. Looks like I'm way behind. I'm trying to catch back up. Aha!
Wow, it looks like your voice is really being delayed. Let me turn on my audio here. If we can avoid feedback here.
I think related to the full moon. Oh, well, you can put up protections to keep people from reading your mind.
I'm not getting any audio. Guess I don't care. Everybody else is. I hope they are.
Well, they keep asking questions, so I'm assuming some of them are getting audio. Yeah, if you don't want people in your head, you put up wards to keep people out of your head. So I did a thing on psychic self-defense, and I would watch that video to try and figure that out. So Canary says, I got Moldavite. I hope it's real. I hope so too. I saw some at the rock show, and I was suspicious because it was from India. And I'm like, they don't come from India. Rainfall says, demon possession can only happen when there is an open door. That seems to be probable. The Witch of Enchantment says, hello all. Hi. If you can handle my delay.
I can't even tell. I get no audio at all at the moment.
It's not just demonic spirits that can attempt to do possession. This is probably true. John McMahon says, hi all. Hi, John. Kids in the Hall. That's it. Thank you. That's who they were, the kids in the hall, about the skit. Rainfall says, the Witch of Enchantment, hello. Julia says, okay, thanks. Canary says that John. Rainfall says, collect your water before the sun comes up. Well, it's the same kind of thing, I'm sure. It's like if you're going to make solar water or moon water, it's like, you know. Desideratum. Hey. So Butterfly Magic says hi to everybody. Gary says, hello, happy full moon. Thank you for Hope video. Yes, it feels like Pandora's box lately. That's true. That was the only thing that was left in the box, was Hope.
Guess I need a restart.
John Quinn says, thank you. Desideratum says, I collected hailstone water once. Very good for neutralizing angry energy coming from a bad housemate at the time. Well, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's your associations in your mind that make it work for you. So, like, a lot of these things aren't necessarily universally true, but if they match your mindset and your own personal mental constructs, and they fit in with those things and access that part of your mind that will allow you to do whatever it is you're trying to do, then they work. And so I don't discourage anybody from trying anything. If people have moon water and it works for them, I think yay, but it just not for me. So Rainfall says tonight's August moon is a strong one. Why is it attached to you?
I think she was talking about or whoever was talking about the demonic spirit there.
Right. Butterfly says there's a delay when you are seen speaking and when you are heard. Not sure if it's just my connection. Oh, so it might not be everybody. I've been seeing strange beings. I don't know what they are, but if it was negative, I would feel drained, right? Probably. Because generally speaking, negative beings don't make you feel good afterwards. And just because you don't know what it is doesn't mean it's negative.
Yeah, and I consider negative not as a judgment, but as a description of function, just like mycelium are made to break down forest products and things. If you're one of those bugs or something, that they infect with the stuff, you don't have an attitude like that. So negative just can mean that they perform unpleasant functions, but that's always our from perspective of our judgment. Sorry.
That's okay.
That makes sense.
I mean, some of the beings that I've met are definitely large, extremely powerful, and potentially dangerous if not approached with the right attitude and with awareness and, like awakeness. I mean, you have to, if you're encountering things you're not sure of and what they are, that's probably a good thing because that's when we learn more about the actual nature of reality as opposed to following some other person's interpretation of what all of these things are and what they mean. I mean, reality really doesn't care what we write about. It doesn't care what we think about. It doesn't define itself based upon our perceptions and our beliefs in it. It is what it is. And it's our limitations of not being able to encounter it face to face in the moment and experience it completely that limit our ability to understand the world around us. So anytime you can meet something that you're completely unfamiliar with is an opportunity for you to use those skills that most people aren't using because they think they know what's going on, they know what all these things are, they know what they do, how they're going to act and so forth, and so they've put reality in a box of their own making. And like I said, reality really doesn't care. I mean, if you jump off a cliff, you're going to get hurt. That's the way that works. No matter what you think about cliffs or jumping or distance or any of that other stuff, So when it comes to beings like that, caution is good and, cautious respect and having your own protections up and so forth and having your own spiritual boundaries. So if it becomes uncomfortable, you can back away or you can have them back away, that kind of thing. Because you certainly don't want to get yourself in a big, huge, giant mess. But, like we said earlier, nature is not warm and fuzzy. Neither is the spirit world. Warm and fuzzy. So Desideratum gave Rachel a place to go look for a happy home spell. Rainfalls thought magic mushroom soup sounded pretty good. John McMahon says, use sun-ruled plants, herbs, and items when you feel dark energy around you or shadow figures. That would be one way of doing it. Or things that are naturally light-producing, like selenite, which is just a wonderful stone for that. It'll just, create all this natural light wherever it is. It never needs to be cleansed itself because it's kind of self-cleansing. Rainfall says, cast iron, I did season it with olive oil. Thank you. All right. It's always good when I'm right. Rachel says, thank you very much. I will be trying those out as the process continues with my home. It is one I've purchased. It will be on the land my grandfather's or grandmother's family owned for years, so it's very special. So an ancestral kind of place. That could be interesting. Joey says, Ian, audio good here, no interruptions. So it must be the other person's computer. Thank you for letting us know. Nisha says, and with a cast iron cauldron, if you ever need to clean it, I would imagine one would scrub it using salt. Yes, absolutely. I was going to mention that. Instead of soap. Same as with the cast iron skillet. Absolutely. Danny Lamb says, can you find crystals in nature? And if so, where do I look? Well, I don't know where you live, so I have no clue where you're going to look. But, I would find a local rock hounding group. They're going to know where the crystals are. And in some cases, you're not allowed to take them out of caves because caves are protected spaces and protected environments. But then there's other places, like in Oregon, there's places that you can go where you're free to dig them up. You don't even have to have a permit for them. And there's some places that advertise, you can come and some of them have mine tailings and you can come and dig through their mine tailings and find like the stuff they missed
Yeah, we
and
dug
take
up
that with you.
we dug up a bunch of thunder eggs.
Right. And also found limb cast in one of the places we looked.
Right, we did.
Yeah. And I've seen, we didn't go to John Day, which is one of those places where you can dig for fossils and other things. But, check online and see if you have a local group of rock hounds, they're really the source
Yeah.
of information of anything local. So Rachel says, thank you to Desideratum. Ian says, thank you to Joey. Desideratum says, Rachel, I did the spell and definitely recommend it. Happy to help. Angel Ray says, maybe international watchers have delay issues. Nope, we've determined it's a computer issue for some people. But thank you for checking. Rainfalls in Georgia says, there are amethyst deposits. Oh, in Georgia there are amethyst deposits. Cool. We have natural garnets in Oregon,
It sounds
as
like
well as sunstones.
it's starting to sound like multiple people are starting to have problems. I'm going to restart mine so I can.
Mary says, hello, my reception keeps going in and out, but I'm trying to be here. This full moon is a doozy for me. Anyone else feeling that? So happy to be catching you live. Hi, Mary. I just thought it was marvelous. It actually let me sleep last night, so I was grateful. John says, I use my cauldron outside. It gives it personality. I think I was over cleaning it so it looked new and never used. Desidratum says, positive or negative, it may be best not only to be cautious but compassionate. Negative entities are suffering or they wouldn't be bad. You can always pray for them in whatever way you feel good about. And I actually I caught up.
Yes.
For the moment, at least.
I'm gone at the moment.
And you're gone.
Physically here, but electronically gone.
Ah,
And typing a question.
all right. So other people can see it later?
Yeah, and I don't know if we're having you're not getting any messages, we're having connection issues there?
No, like I did last time.
So if we are, it's probably just YouTube is being slow or something.
YouTube can do that.
Yeah.
John McMahon says, St. Bridget's Well has lots of quartz in its water. You can collect stones and hagstones on the beaches. That's true. And I think that paranormal investigators have discovered that places that have a lot of quartz underneath are often hot spots for psychic activity or paranormal activity and magnetism and whatnot. Rachel says, I have a family member that hunts for Uper lights. I'm not sure if there's another name, but they glow like fire embers under a black light. I love them.
Oh, cool.
That sounds awesome. Uper lights. It's like, or Uper lights. Well, maybe you can send us a picture one of these days. John Quinn says, you can dig for amethyst, quartz, and diamonds in Murfreesboro, Arkansas, if you live there. That's why I suggested a local rock hounding group. Depends on how far you're willing to travel. And right now, travel seems like a bad idea, personally.
My question is not going through. Is it okay if I just ask?
Sure.
Okay, so
Depends on how far you're willing to travel. Right now, travel seems like a bad
Sorry.
idea.
that's okay. So referring back to your topic about nature and the spirit world not being warm and fuzzy, I've been thinking a lot about initiation lately, and I'm just wondering, how does one prepare for initiation?
Okay, so the question is, how does one prepare for an initiation? And the answer is, it's not easy. You don't know for sure what's going to happen. The best thing you can do is be working on yourself. If you do the shadow work first, that's probably going to help a lot. And shadow work combined with therapy and being as clear an individual as you possibly can be, and that's going to give you the best chance of having a good, successful experience with an initiation. And of course, you want to make sure if someone's doing an initiation to you that you trust them.
Well, and it also depends on what kind of initiation, if you're going through like a Native American vision quest is one type of difficulty because of the actual physical difficulty of accomplishing it properly, or An initiation is really just a beginning into something. So it kind of depends on what something you're doing a beginning into. They can be from turned into a complete ceremony, like the Golden Dawn or the OTO, which provide initiations that work in certain fashions. Sorry, I guess I'm getting lost because it's just too big of
A subject?
to talk about because there's so much to it depending on exactly what's going on.
Well, the initiation that you guys put me through worked, even though we didn't know much about initiations. And it had a real initiation is going to actually transform the person who receives it on a fundamental level, and that they can't understand or predict until after it's
That
over.
would be a good point to. I know we just mentioned not too long ago the stuff with Mike, but sorry, forget his name, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we all thought it was such
Simple.
a minor
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so along those lines, we have a friend, he's still a friend. I want to clarify that.
Yes.
And we just found out exactly how he received his initiation, and the initiation ceremony that Ian wrote was, to us, a very simple, basic kind of thing. It was basically, here's a line in the dirt, and you're on this side of the line, and you're going to step over the line, and that indicates your commitment to experiencing the universe, and finding your truth or something to that effect. And my husband went down there with his friend in the Lava National Monument beds, which is in Northern California, and they did it there, which probably added to the intensity of it. And it was a very cold night, just also could have added to the intensity of it. And that was 30 years ago almost. I mean, that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And we just had him visit us last week, and he told Ian that his experience of that was he felt as if when he stepped over that line, that he was going to lose his entire soul, all existence he was going to cease to exist anywhere, anytime, forever, kind of thing. So he freaked out. And so,
But not so much at the time that I could really tell. I had no idea till recently, till just now, that it was actually that intense for him.
well, you did say he tore all of his clothes off.
Well, he started to. Yes, he did
in
start
the
taking his
in the
clothes off.
cold air, and you kept trying to get him to put them back on so he wouldn't freeze to death.
Well, yeah.
So there was a definite reaction
that,
at the time, but he didn't tell us about it until just last week.
Well, we knew there was something, but
Right,
just
but we didn't know the
didn't quite get
details.
it, Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that, but that's the thing. It's like, even when you're an experienced ritualist, magician, witch, whatever, there's no way to predict exactly what's going to happen to the subject, because it can bring up stuff from the subconscious that they're not even aware of, that they don't even know that they have. And so whenever something like that happens, you want to make sure that people are prepared for the potential aftermath, and the integration of an initiation can take months or years depending on what took place. So I guess that would be about the most I could say on that at the moment. Desideratum says Upper lights I think might be like soda lights. Mary says from
No,
up in Michigan.
I'm getting a voice, and
Rainfall says look up Upper lights, it's so cool. Joey says in Washington the rivers have lots of crystals, the closer to the mountains the better. Ocean beaches are good too, cascades are very rich in these. Rachel says yep, up in the up. They also glow in green or blue, but the most common I've seen is orange. And Rachel says, I think you might be right, Desideratum, about soda lights. Okay. All right. We got to the end of that again.
so I'm hearing a delay also between the voice and the lip movements.
Well, people can close their eyes and not watch my mouth.
I guess.
UP is Upper Peninsula. Okay. I don't know what UP meant. Thank you for letting me know.
Super helpful.
So it's good to know. I'll look into that for next time. What's causing the delay?
Well, most of the time it's not a problem, and we don't change any settings, so it could be YouTube or something
Yeah,
else.
that's true. This is what's been working.
Right.
So
Yeah. Mary says the Upers live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Jennifer says when we had a drought, I was able to collect river stones. Oh yeah, I guess you would be, like all the way down on the river bottom, because the bottom would be exposed to the air. It'd be interesting to see what showed up. It's one of those things. I like rocks. Except when they get out from under my pillow and end up under my back, or my butt, or my shoulder.
Just means that the rocks like you.
I guess that means they like me. But my body doesn't like that. Who for Z says, thank you so much for all your videos, for sharing all these experiences, and for motivating so many people in this spiritual path. Appreciate all the effort and how genuinely are all your videos. Thank you. That's one of the things we were talking about earlier today. It's like, what you see is what you get. If I know about something, I'll express and explain it as best I can, but if I don't, I'll tell you that too, because I'm not a roaming encyclopedia of all things magic. Although we have one sitting next to us who's often fills in the blanks.
You two make a great team.
Yes, between the two of us, we know a heck of a lot, but we still have gaps.
Yes.
The Van Cave says, hello, my wife Rainfall just found you this week, and I remember seeing her name, and she has changed so much. Thank you for being a teacher on her spiritual path. We love you. Thank you. I'm glad it was good. Sometimes change is not. It's like you never know. But yes, I mean, I figure if the information is out there and people are willing to do the work, it should help. You know, to find out that there's other people like them out there, for one. I mean, a lot of times people in our community feel very desolate and alone and isolated and like, you know, like pariahs in society because we so don't fit into the normal social norms of everything else that's out there, and we see things through a different lens that often makes us incompatible with what's going on structure-wise.
and now Shay's going to have to introduce herself.
Oh, it says, Joey says, sorry I got on a little late. Who's off camera and can she say hello on camera? It would be nice. Do you want to? We have to ask her permission for that.
Sure.
She says, okay. So come on over here and dip your head down and say, hey, this is Shay. I'll move aside. And you won't be able to tell that you're on camera for a second.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Shay, also Nisha, typing stuff and being here.
Known her since '86. We're longtime friends, and she was in my first coven. I think it was my first coven. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were in my first coven.
I
I didn't really have a coven in British Columbia. I was doing a lot of magic and doing a lot of ritual and stuff, but I didn't have like a group.
I didn't realize we were your first coven. That's cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's always interesting teaching people, and then I thought I was teaching people pretty well, and then I said, okay, so you can do the air, you can do the fire, you can do the water, you can do the earth, and they went, what?
And we went.
How do we do that? And I'm
Right.
like, seriously, have you not been paying attention? I've been telling you how to do this
Well,
for
that's
like
the thing.
months.
A description is one thing, but doing it is the only way to really get the feel for something.
It truly is. Yeah. Yeah. It really
The Van Cave says it was a good change. Yay, we're very relieved. T. Miranda says, is it possible to channel otherworldly entities or from other galaxies? Well, it's theoretically possible, but they're so far removed from what we're dealing with on our own planet. It's not
Yeah,
something.
Not something we've ever really delved into at all.
I mean, I've met some of the spirit beings that exist on our own in our own solar system. And those guys are pretty strange, some of them. you know, um, and those can be channeled easier than like an intergalactic.
Everybody's saying
Everyone's saying hi to you. You better correct your spelling. It's Shae.
You guys are cute.
But hey,
Yeah.
we know what it means.
Yeah.
Mary says, who is your favorite deity for protection? Depends on what I need protection from. So if I need protection for family, children, and animals, a lot of times Artemis or Diana will be my first call. But then the Garuda has taken on the role in our temple, in our group or whatever, for protecting people who are under his protection from psychic and mental and physical harm. And so the Garuda is probably right now the guy I go to because he volunteered for the job. But I have a relationship with Kali. She's also good for protection. If you need a powerhouse to come around and, whack somebody in the head and say, stop that. So he corrected it. Hello, Shay. Sorry about the misspelling. Yeah. There you go. She was able to get that comment in. We figured since she was here visiting, she should come into the temple with us, and since she knows all about this stuff anyway, and we've been working together off and on for years. So we're glad to have her back in our lives. It's been awesome. And that's the thing. People come and go, and they can drift apart and then come back together. And
Yep, and then all of a sudden we have kitty and bunny energy in the household.
that's right. She brought the kitty, and my granddaughter brought the bunny, and they met the other day in the living room.
Yeah.
And no badness ensued.
Yeah.
And I think Ashley figures that Mouse didn't care much for the bunny.
Yeah, my cat's name is Mouse, just to make it more confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a cat named Mouse and a bunny named Nibbler.
Yeah. And Mouse was very intrigued with the bunny, never having seen one.
Right.
Did not freak out, because usually your granddaughter says that most cats freak out around the bunny. It's like, this terrifying little beast. Yeah.
So John says, Siofra, I notice, is Gaelic, a word I always liked. Are you influenced by Celtic cultures? Well, yeah, that would be a yes. My family is from Sligo County. Those are where my ancestors are from, and they were raised at the base of Knocknashee. So I'm sure you know where that is. And so we have a connection to the fairy folk from a long time ago. And I actually think that we might have fairy blood in our line, if that's a real thing or not. But certainly we have the gift running through our line pretty strongly. One of my sisters, actually two of my sisters, have had both paranormal and psychic experiences. I've had the most as far as that, family stuff goes. My brother had some too, but he's sort of settled into being a Catholic and denying everything that ever happened when he was a child. So, he's kind of become a misogynistic asshole, actually, to put it bluntly and accurately. So he's like abandoned the family and disowned us all. But yeah, my grandmother was actually raised in Ireland by her grandmother, and so there's a strong influence there. And I had an uncle. I just loved listening to him talk, and he had the most wonderful accent. It was like it was hard to understand sometimes, but I just loved the sound of his Irish accent that he had. It was quite lovely. And yeah, so I picked the name Siofra when David started writing books about me and our experiences, and told me he was going to publish, and I needed a publishing pseudonym for that. And so I picked Siofra Bradigan, and it basically means spirited elf. So that's where that came from. So Sophie says, I've never had a paranormal experience or any contact I know of with entities or deities. What's your best advice for becoming more in tune with them? I'd start off by getting in touch with a tree. Tree spirits are very calm, generally speaking, and open to interactions with humans.
And mellow, just don't choose one that's been abused a lot by
Right.
humans.
Mellow. You don't want one that's been tortured by people. Yeah, that's probably a good point.
Good advice.
But I would look around in your area for trees and approach them and see if you can pick out their energy, and start to sense their energy as being something other than you. And that's the first step towards being able to identify things that are out there all the time that most people don't encounter just because we're so tapped into, our narrow everyday lives and all the things that come up that we have to deal with.
Right, you undoubtedly have been around a lot of entities and things because they're out there everywhere naturally, but it's becoming aware of them, becoming aware of that energy and letting that happen. That's the part that just kind of happens over time naturally if you attempt. I've communicated with plants several times, but it's been unpredictable, and I can't bring that about myself. But
Well,
it
that's
has
the thing,
happened.
though, being open to the experience. I mean, at some point we might be able to develop the ability to control when and where that's going to happen. But in the beginning, it's sort of like you're like a blind person in a dark room and you're feeling around with your hands, and then suddenly you see something in the distance and you go like, "Oh, what's that?" But you don't have your bearings as to where you are, and so slowly that starts coming into focus. And the more it happens, the better you get at it when it comes to that. So Mary says, thank you, don't know much about Garuda, can you tell me more? Okay, so here is the story about Garuda. I told this to Ian the other day, and someone else, I think. Anyway,
Oh, I know the stories about
I know you know the story, but it was one of my clients, I was telling the story about Garuda too. Anyway, okay, so Garuda is a Hindu deity. He wasn't always a god. He was like, he's a giant bird, and he is supposedly responsible for building the mountains and valleys of India because he could make himself so large that when he flew, when his wings touched the ground, they would dig the valleys, and his wings coming up would build up the mountains. So he's related to the land in that sense as well. And he was the mount of Vishnu. And Vishnu and those gods were in a fight with the Naga, the serpent people, and the horned turtle. And so there was this big war going on. And the Naga kidnapped the Garuda's wife and took her hostage. And then told the Garuda that unless he stole the elixir of immortality, whatever they call that, from Vishnu and gave it to them, then they would kill his wife. So that was the exchange. That was the price. And he thought about it because, he really liked his wife a lot, but he couldn't steal it from Vishnu. That didn't seem right. So he went to Vishnu and he told him the situation, what's happening here. And so Vishnu says, okay, he says, I got a plan. Here is a bottle of the elixir of life. You can go give it to them, and after they release your wife, spill it on the ground and it will go into the earth and they will never be able to have it. And so that way you can keep them from becoming immortal at the same time as you get your wife back. And so that's what he did. And when that was over, Vishnu gave him the elixir and made him a god. And so that's how he got his status. And he's very much his personality. Can you hand me that statue over there with the snakes in the arms next to the dragon? His personality is very much a protector. That's one of the things that he does. So here is the first statue of him that I knew I was getting. And, he has snakes in his arms. He's sort of like an eagle character. And a lot of countries actually have him on their flags. So the Mexican flag's got him. Several Asian countries have him. I think the Philippines might even have him on their flag. And so he's actually pretty widespread.
He's basically an eagle, right?
Yeah, he's a bird, and eagle is definitely one of them. In this one, he's got like a human face with a bird beak, and wings on his back to show it. The statue he sent me is him just as the bird with Vishnu riding his back. So that would be Garuda, and he's pretty awesome. And he was the one he volunteered for it. So there you go, Mary. You now have a story about the Garuda. Joey says, my last name means of the moon. Someone asked if I do moon rituals. I don't. I would like to. I'm solitary. What ritual would be good? Well, I mean, going outside and dancing in the moonlight would be good.
Something that's really appropriate would be to if you can catch a reflection of the moon in a body of water and use that for scrying or just getting into contact with that particular moon energy, because it's water is very appropriate for that.
Right, because the lunar energy is watery by nature. Mary says, I have rabbits and cats and they all get along. So sweet. Hi, Nibbler and Mouse. Yeah, Nibbler's a cute little black rabbit. He's adorable. Gary says, Loretta loves finding stones. They all have such different personalities. This is true. I have jewelry that has personality too. It's like, I have a dragon bracelet that's very particular about where I wear it and how. Only on the right wrist, and it has to be looking at me. Apparently it wants to see me at all times if I'm wearing it. So, yeah. So, John says, that's really interesting. Naknashi is Hill of the Fairies. You have that magic about you. I know. It is the Hill of Fairies and one of the 7 sacred hills of Ireland. Siofra says, Sophie says, I love trees. Thank you. That'll be good. Joey says, I also love Irish accents. I grew up in Chicago in an Irish neighborhood. I never get tired of hearing that accent, especially from women. No disrespect intended to any women. Well, hey, we all have our things that we like. Philippa says, hello, hope you're all good. I'm very late and haven't been able to tune in for some time due to combo of work and kids at home due to summer vacations. Have I missed much?
Yes.
Oh, well, you missed the first hour and we're not retracing our steps for that, but I'm glad that you're here. And you can always watch that later and find out what you missed. But yeah, we're having a good time like usual. Joey says, can you tell, where did I go? Whoops. Can you tell the story again of how you met Garuda and he became your protector, please? Well, okay, so we had a group that was meeting in our temple, and we started to actually coalesce and start to blend really well and started to get a lot of power going, and things were really working. And during a full moon ritual, I heard the goddess say, you've been noticed, you will now be tested. I warned everybody that we'd been noticed and we were about to be tested, and apparently nobody was ready or believed me or understood what that meant. And so the group just dissolved almost overnight. I mean, it was just amazing how fast that happened. And some of them started complaining to other witches about us and what we were doing. And we found out that a group up the coast from us thought that we were evil ceremonialists. And even though we have background in ceremonial magic, we weren't doing ceremonial magic per se any more than a Wiccan does ceremonial magic, since it's based on it. So we were part of an elders community. We'd been invited to be on an elders council, and we were going up to a meeting, and the goddess just kind of like put this information in my path when I was on Facebook, and I saw the woman who leads the group up there talking about this problem that she was having with this ceremonial group, and me being the naive and innocent person that I am, never suspecting a thing, jumped right in and says, well, we know a lot about ceremonial magic, maybe it's a misunderstanding of what they're doing, we can help. And she's like, how the hell did you get on this? I'm like, I'm a member of this group, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, well, we'll talk about it after the meeting, at the council meeting. So we go to there, and I'd started to notice that there was this huge attitude happening in the elders council. Like every time I offered any information or experience or whatever, they were all like correcting me, putting me down, or trying to stop me or whatever. And I was like, that was going on for several months. And I was like, this is just really weird. And so then afterwards, I said, so what about this group you're having a problem with? She says, well, it's you. And we're like, what? We were heartbroken. We were devastated. She had heard these rumors about us that weren't true and had decided that they were true because enough people had said the rumor, because there were all these people in the group that suddenly were tested and failed and just went all over the place. And instead of coming to us first and asking us about it, she accused me of claiming to be a Wiccan when I wasn't, which I've never done, and just a whole bunch of really crazy stuff. And I was like, and saying mean things about her, which I've never done until after she did this. I mean, yeah, I kind of went, well, all right, bitch. I'm sorry. Who the hell do you think you are? And she also said that it was pretty clear that this wasn't my path. I was so not a witch. And I was like, what? What the hell are you talking about? I guess with that whole emotional manipulation, trying to undermine my confidence to make me come to my senses or something like that, which she did a lot, actually, in retrospect. So that was the beginning of all that. And then one of the members of the group that went crazy, I actually was walking around during the day one day and I suddenly felt this binding attempt. I could feel it around my body. It was like I could feel this rope kind of thing going around me, and I immediately knew what was going on, and I knew who it was because I could feel her energy. And I just went like this, and I says, I'm sorry. This, you can't do this without an actual reason. There's no basis to protect everyone from me. I'm not doing anything that needs to be protected from. And so I broke the binding, which of course didn't help the woman who was going psychotic, because then she had a big lashback, I'm assuming, since she at that point would never speak to me again. And so it was when all that stuff started happening and we started getting this like big vibe thing. I think there were some dreams that I had too. And I realized that we were being attacked magically, which is something I've hardly ever had to deal with. And so I was thinking one night, like, okay, so we have a lot of gods and goddesses in our temple. Are there any in here that would be willing to, like, step up and do the protection that apparently we need? And so I came in here in my mind. I was still in my bedroom, and I like tuned into each of the altars and each of the deities that were here. I checked in with Kali, and she's like, well, sure, if that's what you want, no problem. But when I got to the Garuda, there was this like like an excited kid going like, me, pick me. So I was like, okay, how interesting. So then I looked into him and discovered some of his story, and then I contacted one of the other members who were still with us at the time, and she tuned into him, and he gave her a chant, and then I got the other half of the chant later. And we were like, wow, okay, so we started doing that. It still wasn't the end of the dissolution. We still had a few members left at that point. But, yeah, so he's, there protecting us and protecting our families and that kind of thing. And then he sent me a much larger statue. I found it at the Salvation Army for like $20. And it's like 2 feet high. And teak wood, I think, carved teak wood. It's just absolutely gorgeous statue and very detailed and stuff. So that's how he became our protector. So sometimes, like, they'll reach out to you. In this case, that's what happened. I didn't, like, look for him specifically, but I had been attracted to that statue in a magic shop in Roseburg a number of years before. And I didn't know anything about him yet, but there was just something about the image that I thought, there's just something about this I like. And so I bought him. And he was sitting in here. And then after the other statue came, then we realized that we have a bell with him on it that we've had for years. And we didn't realize we had a Garuda on it. It has a Garuda and a dragon and some other symbol for protection on the bell. So that's how that happened. And it certainly is interesting when God volunteers to, be your protector. And some people who are fairly clairvoyant have actually seen the wings over our house. And one of the things I learned about his followers is that sometimes you can ride on his back in his feathers. And he did that for me one night. I suddenly found myself on his wings, holding on to a feather going through the air. I was like, what? Ah! And I looked up and I saw other people hanging on to other feathers on his wing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Apparently he's taking me for a ride. So, nothing else happened with that, but that was just fun. Just sort of spontaneous, bam, there it was. So that was great. So there you go. So, John says, I have family in County Clare, Ireland in the south, and my ancestors are from there as well. I hope to go there someday. Yes, and apparently my granddaughter wants to become a lawyer, have a lot of money, and fly me to Ireland someday. We'll see if that happens or not, but it's a lovely thought. I love the thought.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, Desiderodum says, Sophie, you may also want to combine Sierra and Ian's advice with theta wave meditation. If you can bring yourself into theta, you may see all kinds of spirits, but only when you're ready. I think it's good to go slowly when it comes to that, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself too fast. So John McMahon says, John Quinn, my family clan is from County Clare and is very wild there. Whoops. I hit a button. There we are. I'm actually still in the right place. It just seemed like I didn't. Mary says, ooh, I love Garuda. Thank you. I feel like hearing that story from you was protecting me. I love your Capricorn energy. You feel like protection too. And I love pictures of the ibex. He's like my animal at the moment.
Favorite Capricorn symbol.
Yes. After all of the ghosts that are out there, the pictures of the ibex are just astonishing, especially when they climb up on somebody's roof and they just stand there by the chimney looking out with a giant mountain in the background. It's just this is mine. I own it all.
They're so noble.
Oh, they are. They're beautiful. Very regal looking. So Sophie said, thank you. What is theta? I've heard of it before, but never looked into it. Desiderodum says, does anyone have any experience with Dorje Shugden? He's a drama protector in Tibetan Buddhism. Dalai Lama is against working with him, like excommunicating monks and lay people who work with him. I haven't heard anything about him, so I don't know. Do you?
No, I actually say that one line down.
Okay. I have not heard of this. Okay. Does make me wonder. Yeah, infighting is always strange. So John Quinn says that John McMahon, it's a small world. My family comes from a little town called Enistimon, or Enistimon. Do you mean wild as in magically wild? Good to meet you. Rainfall says, some kind of a weird face. Desiderodum says theta wave is a level of brain waves. Well, yeah, the delta waves are the lowest waves. The theta is just below alpha, and so theta is considered a deep form of meditation practice, a slower brain wave. Apparently, when I'm in the presence of Moida, the spirit that I channel, I create delta waves on only one side of my brain, which was quite shocking to the experimenter who had me hooked up to a mind mirror at the time. It's because you're not supposed to be able to create those waves unless you're asleep and in a deep state of dreaming. So that was sort of interesting. Beta are the top waves, like the mathematical logic kind of waves that we use. And spirit is above that energy level, so they're faster, shorter waves than ours, but in order to communicate with them, we have to slow ourselves down. It's sort of an interesting conundrum there. And they have to try and slow themselves down as well when you're trying to, converse with a being from another plane of existence. John McMahon says, both John Quinn, they will not put a road through a fairy tree, so they divide the road around it. It's windswept, and in some parts the trees grow almost sideways.
Which I think is pretty cool.
That's pretty
Very
awesome.
cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Desiderodum says, Ian, yeah, it seems to be an ancient Tibetan spirit, but Dalai Lama is really antagonistic about him. Very weird. All right. I've never actually seen the Dalai Lama in person, so Gary says, we have a tree spirit in the apple trees. We made some great apple butter. We are very thankful. Yeah. And Ian says, Desideratum, I will investigate this a little just to see what I think. Joey says, thank you for the story and for blessing us with your wisdom. Well, you're welcome. I don't always feel wise, but I love to tell a good story.
I guess you should probably ask for any last questions we got, since we're 15 minutes.
Yeah, we've got actually 10 minutes left according to my clock.
Okay, well, we'll go by yours.
So, John Quinn says, that John McMahon, glad to hear they are that respectful. John McMahon says, at John Quinn, we have our battles and have to fight. American even come over to help us. They built over a Viking town. Oh my goodness, here in Dublin. Sounds like a bad idea. Talk about stirring up old spirits that might be violent and opposed to being disturbed.
Yep.
Felipa says, I'm going to be starting the Silva Ultramine quest on Mind Valley soon. So hopefully I'll manage to put myself into Theta and Delta State whilst awake. Mary says, I listened to a podcast from a woman who would channel an elf that goes by Mr. E.
Mr. E, okay.
This seems highly suspect to me
Especially
because...
since the word means mystery, if you look at it that way.
Right, Mr. E.
It says mystery,
Exactly.
yep.
Yeah.
I don't... Yeah, I don't see... I mean, I'm confused about this because I can see her maybe getting communications from him and then telling other people about him, but channeling not. I don't think that would work well with human physiology because their energy is so different from ours, but who knows? Desideratum says, it would be great to talk about quick ways to protect ourselves before meditation. LBRP is kind of a lot for people
That's
sometimes.
a good point. It is kind of a lot.
Well, that's the reason why we did it as a meditation.
Yeah.
It's not as much if you do it as a meditation.
Well, and the meditation isn't as much for protection as it is for reaching contact with those cosmic and microcosmic forces in the meditation. I didn't make it so much for self-defense, but to get more of the actual value out of the ritual towards advancement. It helps balance the elements in a person and various other developmental things that the meditation does also. So just, yeah. Sorry.
Well, a good
Didn't
way
mean to get
for
off on
protecting
that.
yourself, as a quick way to protect yourself from meditation, is working with your own energy shield, and then charging up a stone or something like that will automatically work for protecting you when you're wearing it.
Yeah,
So it can be
something-
just an automatic kind of thing.
Yes, some kind of reflecting stone like tiger eye or
Like this
Labrador
one
eye
here,
have a
yeah.
natural tendency to reflect things back, and that's a good one, that kind of thing.
Mary says, do you believe in mermaids? Not literally. I have met mermaid people,
Undines.
but they're undines, and I certainly, have met several, and they taught me how to swim, so, but they're not something anyone else would be able to see. I mean, you couldn't take a picture of them or a video of them or anything, at least not at this point. And Mary says, she said that is not his real name because if we all say his real name, something would happen. I don't
Okay.
know. Uh-huh. Yeah. It'd mean like Rumpelstiltskin. And if we all said his real name, he would poof, vanish into another dimension and like yell and scream that people knew his name.
You know, maybe he'd have to give you his treasure.
I
Right, right,
think that's supposed to be leprechauns, but
Oh, sorry, you're
Yeah.
right.
yeah. The two get conflated,
yeah, who knows?
yeah.
Desideratum says that Felipa, that's supposed to be a really good program. I'm learning from a medium just here and there. Mary says, I think it was called the Real Fairy Podcast or something. Okay. So we're down to about 7 minutes.
So yeah, another way for the self-protection is put a picture of yourself, or basically your aura being hardened, like you're inside a giant steel ball, and that kind of keeps everything out. But you probably don't want to leave that type of protection long term.
Or you can cast a circle where you do your meditation.
Yeah.
And you can take that up or down. You can leave it up if you want to, or take it down after you're done. But it's a good practice, because every time you cast a circle, you learn more about the energy, and they see the energy. When you're drawing the pentagrams and stuff, it's a do not disturb sign and to certain spirits. And you can like put that into the circle when you're casting it. So, it's like that's what I call real magic, is learning about those energies and using them on a regular basis. I have a permanent circle around my bedroom, so it helps me with sleeping and I don't get disrupted. But the positive spirits I'm working with can come in without difficulty. So I'm not worried about them. They're not there to do anything bad to me or assault me or attack me or anything like that. So, the fairy folk that are working with me come in and check on me periodically, and then they're off doing their own thing. We have like a relationship, but it's like what you would have with a friend. It's like they have their thing, I have my thing, and then every so often they just come in and try and see where I'm at or help me develop some ability or whatever. And they smell so good. That's the thing. I love the way they smell.
So that would be like a semi-permeable protective circle, so that
Right.
your friends could come through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the idea is you're keeping out things that are inimical to you, things that don't like you,
Yeah.
are there to spy on you. I had to unfortunately banish a former friend of mine from coming astrally to our space anymore, and because he had had permission for years to do that, and then he changed enough, going through a bad phase, mental health issues and things like that, that I had to say, I'm sorry, but you can't come to our temple in the astral anymore, or to our house or anything. The invitation's been rescinded, and because of that, he hasn't been able to get in. So, you can do boundaries in a lot of different ways. You can do psychic boundaries, energetic boundaries, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. There's like a lot of different levels.
Yeah, you can charge up stones, magic mirrors if you're familiar with Barton stuff, something like that.
Yeah, Mary thinks the same way like me, like what would happen if everyone said his name. Gary says, Loretta took her first steps when man walked on the moon. She is very connected to her. Everyone make a wish, happy full moon. Happy full moon.
Full moon.
Does Rodham says, having the name of a Fey person supposedly can give you power over them. It's considered rude to ask their name. Best to ask what they like to be called.
I'll buy that.
Well, I think it would be rude.
I think it's just less rude anyway.
Yeah.
Ask them how they want to be called, So, yeah, I'd buy that
Well,
as a general.
Moida says, I don't know her other names.
Right.
Because when she came, she said I had my own name for her.
Yes, and then you got the whole thing.
And so that's the name she picked.
You have the whole Solomon's things where a being is taking on an office and the name is associated with that office.
Right.
So you're really dealing with that aspect if you deal with the hierarchy of angels and demons as given in Solomon's work.
Or even with the elemental kingdoms. Those
Yeah.
spirits, the names of the spirit beings are actually not individual spirits, but the name of their office,
Right, what they do.
what they
They're
do.
related to what
It's their
they do
job
and how
title.
they do it.
It's the job title, not their actual name.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Barton's third book, that gives you a way to actually use their name effectively.
Using the Kabbalah.
Yes. And you can basically, well, yeah, that's enough about that. Don't want to get too far off subject.
Especially in less than 2 minutes.
Last 2 minutes, yeah. Okay, something that's going to take me 35 minutes to explain.
That's right.
That'd be a good video for you
Well,
to do.
thank
though.
you all for being here.
Yes, it's been fun.
Any last words?
Happy full moon.
Happy full moon.
Happy full moon.
It was at 5:11 or something like that this morning. But it'll look full tonight, I'm sure. So,
You can still feel it. Yeah.
yep. Delipa says thank you. You're welcome. Okay, guys. We're just about ready to sign on off and go on to whatever we're doing next. Oh yeah, birthday party for my daughter. Today is her birthday. So we're going to go meet my daughter and say hi at a distance out in the open because a lot of her friends she's worried. She wants to make sure we're safe, which is good. So, all right, guys.
So Mariana.
Thank you, Siofra, Ian, and Shay. I was having an intense full moon. I feel better now from all of you. Good. Thank you, Siofra, Ian, and friends. From Desideratum. Alrighty then. Yep. John says, She-Chara is Gaelic for someone who works with the fairies. It means fairy friends.
Ah, cool.
Nice. So I guess I would be a fairy friend.
Definitely,
At least they consider me one.
yes.
So yeah, yay. Alright guys, off we go. This has been fun as usual, and we never know what we're going to talk about, and it's one of the things I like about it. Unscripted. So, bye guys.